I'm going to tell you a little bit about quantum computers and why people care so much about them. There are literally tens of thousands of some of the brightest people in the world today trying to build these machines and understand them. And I'm going to tell you why.
Technology, quantum computing, dimensions, parallel universes, all these observatories. We're going to cover a lot today, so I hope you're ready. Let's go.
The Mars can probably export intellectual property like software and inventions and things like that. If you can sort of beam it back with photons, that's sort of the better way to go.
It may look a little strange to you who don't follow theoretical physics, but there is a very clear prediction that our most successful theory of nature makes, and that is that there are an enormous number, mind-bogglingly large number, of parallel realities, as real as this one, that have different consistent histories. So imagine a world where all of the laws of physics as we know them are obeyed, but different decisions were made along the way. Different decisions at the level of tiny microscopic particles, different decisions all the way up to what you chose to eat for lunch, and whether you chose to come to this session or not. Quantum mechanics makes a very specific prediction that all of those are as real as the thing that you remember. And this is bizarre, because we don't see those other things. But science has reached the point now where we can build machines that exploit those other worlds. And quantum computers are perhaps the most exciting of all of these that we have within, or almost within our grasp right now. So people from a physics background love this. They want to understand the world. They want to understand the universe, how it all works. There's another type of person who tends to come from the computer science side that's like, yeah, okay, that's all great. But there's a different thing going on here, which is just as exciting, if not more, and that these machines that supposedly can do this wild stuff, let's forget about how they work, if you could build one, could solve problems that you could never, ever solve with any computer of the sort that we built. If you took every single atom of silicon in the world and made the most sophisticated conventional Intel-style processor that you could build, there are problems we know of that I could write down on a sheet of paper that you could never, ever, ever solve with that thing, that you could with this kind of machine. There are, in fact, many of these machines deployed now in openly available research centers following the model that was used to introduce supercomputers to the world. They're too big and ornery and difficult to operate to put in your home, too expensive also, but you can give them to a place which will manage them as a shared resource that will offer that service to the world. And there are two of these now. One of them is at the University of Southern California, was recently installed at NASA. And Google was the primary interested party that pulled this whole thing together. And that's, can we build machines like us from what this machine that we've built does best? Is applying this beautiful new computational idea in the service of trying to make intelligent machines. SpaceX, Tesla, Synthetic Genomics, which is Craig Venter's company, is trying to build artificial life, and D-Wave, and that's it. And this is his particularly poetic way of framing the difference between the machines we build and conventional computers. This is what they look like. There are two of them. They look like giant black monoliths, big metal boxes, about 10 feet on a side, 12 feet tall. And they are powered, they have a fridge inside them, a refrigerator that cools these chips to almost absolute zero. Just a wisp, a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. Hundreds of times colder than interstellar space. Amongst the coldest and most isolated and extreme conditions that humans have ever been able to engineer. These fridges, interestingly enough, which are called pulse tube dilution refrigerators, have a thing called a pulse tube, which emits a sound roughly once per second, which sounds eerily like a heartbeat. So if you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines, it is an awe-inspiring thing, at least for me. It feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are impressive machines. At the heart of this big box is a tiny chip about the size of your thumbnail. And on this chip resides all of the wonder and magic that makes this thing go. I'm not going to describe in any mathematical detail how it all works, but let me give you an analogy. In quantum mechanics, there's this concept that a thing can exist in two states which are mutually exclusive at the same time, quote unquote. So I'm using those words because the English language was developed before we had concepts to describe what these things actually are doing. Imagine that there really are parallel universes out there, and now imagine you have two that are exactly identical in every respect, all the way out to the horizon as far as we can see, down to the last little atomic detail of every single thing, with only one difference. And that's the value of a little thing called a qubit on this chip, which is a contraction of quantum bit. And that qubit is very much like a bit or a transistor in a conventional computer. It has two distinct physical states, which we call 0 and 1 for bit. In a quantum computer, that device can be in this strange situation where these two parallel universes have a nexus, a point in space where they overlap. And when you increase the number of these devices, every time you add one of these qubits, you double the number of these parallel universes that you have access to, until such time when you get to a chip like this, living in that chip. So the way I think about it is of these parallel worlds overlap with ours. And if we're smart enough, we can dive into them and grab their resources and pull them back into ours to make an effect in our world. But this is, what I'm telling you is absolutely correct and in line with the way that these things actually work. We've been doing this for some time now. There's a very deep feeling of unease about the way technology has been developing, because we have all of these vast array of very smart people, and what they're doing is crap. They're building things that cannot last. They're building things that are not important. The attention will turn from the Twitters and the Facebooks to very important things. So here's my first prediction. I'm going to predict that by 5 years, NASA will have found an Earth-like planet with Earth-like atmosphere and water on it, and serious people will start discussing how we get there.
After more than half a century, a speculation has now been confirmed that Earth has 2 dust moons. The Earth doesn't have just 1 moon, it has 3. The existence of the 2 extra moons was debated for 50 years, proved enough data to confirm that our moon has at least 2 other companions made entirely of dust. Sometimes satellites need to be parked at the Lagrange points so that the spacecraft consumes minimal fuel and can still stay in orbit. Moreover, space agencies are also planning to use Lagrange points as transfer stations for Mars missions. What needs to be seen now, are there more such dust moons waiting to be found at nearby Lagrange points? So what is a moon? Well, here it states that it is a natural satellite. It orbits planets, asteroids, and our solar system. Moons come in several shapes and sizes and have atmospheres, hidden oceans beneath the surfaces. China to launch 3 artificial moons in space by 2022, and to be put on orbit within 500 kilometers from Earth. The illumination intensity is expected to be 8 times of the moon light. And China's preparing to launch the 3 artificial moons in space By 2022, the state-run Science and Technology Daily reported that the artificial or man-made moon is a satellite carrying a huge space mirror which can reflect the sunlight to the Earth. What about the James Webb Telescope? That has a lot of mirrors on it. According to China's plans for the verification to launch the orbit injection, unfolding illumination, adjust and control of the man-made moon will be completed. By then, it says the 3 huge mirrors will divide the 360-degree orbital plane, realizing illumination in an area for 24 hours continuously. Now, the reflected sunlight can cover an area 6,400 square kilometers, and the illumination intensity is expected to be 8 times of the moon light. The moon orbits the Earth about 380,000 kilometers from Earth, while the man-made moon is expected to be put on an orbit within 500 kilometers from the Earth and according to the state-run China. And the concerns that have been made about this man-made moonlight will interrupt the concerns is that it will interrupt the normal day-night cycle of animals and plants. We've been seeing some crazy things with animals and plants going in circles. And it's talking about how when the moon is orbiting, people can only see a bright star in the sky. So what do you think about this? Do you think it's what's causing the animals to go in circles? What could cause that? Well, these man-made moons that I've never heard of before, I don't know, but I think it's pretty strange to mess with Mother Nature. And they're saying they're doing it because of civil areas and illumination and to help with electric charge, the savings of money, and to help illuminate when blackout areas happen with natural disasters and earthquakes. Now, earlier experiments with the US and Russia have explored man-made moon, hoping it can bring convenience to nighttime activities. In the 1990s, Russia carried out an experiment called Banner, testing the idea of using a mirror to reflect the sunlight to Earth. Now, the mirror failed to unfold in space, so the experiment was halted. So the reason why I'm putting this in here is because, for one, I didn't know about it, and two, it does have to do with technology and the things that CERN, D-Wave, quantum computers is tapping into. With the Recibio going down and FAST, F-A-S-T, observatory going up, it sure makes you understand what's going on with China, Russia, the US, Japan, and the EU. It's a technology race.
Most people say, well, what is the business model for Mars? And move to Mars to be part of creating a new planet and be part of kind of the founding team of a new civilization.
My second prediction is that this business of parallel universes is going to turn out to be very important. Is what's called a gravitational lens. When Einstein proposed his general theory of relativity, that if there was a point of light very far away and a galaxy in the middle, that galaxy should bend the light and you should see a ring. And this was eventually observed. Somebody is going to come up with an experiment to test this reality of these things. My third prediction that I'm going to end on is the most important of all. I believe that humanity is on the cusp of the most important technological, societal revolution that's ever occurred. And that's when we got to the point where the machines that we build outpace us in every respect. I don't mean that they're better calculators. I don't mean that they're better at searching. I mean everything. And I think that we're very close. And my prediction is that within 15 years, we will have machines that outpace humans.
Of what most people do here and think that these machines that I'm talking about are going to be like androids that walk around that behave just like humans. That's not likely. You know, what's likely to happen is that there'll be special purpose systems built in the short term that do something phenomenal that is very human-like. That's going to be the first thing that you see. People will say, oh, it's not a human because it can't do X. And it will happen so gradually that people won't notice it until the thing does everything. And, you know, so that things like speech recognition, oh, it's just speech recognition, it's just an algorithm. Or a computer vision, oh, it can recognize 20,000 things in an image, so what? It's just an algorithm. And then people are going to start putting these things together, and all of a sudden this thing is going to be crawling around on the floor and talking to you, and you're going to be wondering what happens.
So what does this have to do with aliens? So I received this message from the heavens. So my microwave dish, my SETI dish, finally captures something. And what it says is, like, when you do this, beware. Because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram, and you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. These things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics. Underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out.
Nobody is paying attention. Have you been thinking about the advances in technology, dimensions, tapping into other worlds or realms, and taking things and bringing them back to our world? Now, when I first heard this, I couldn't believe it. And now, the Mandela effect, and so many things with these different observatories and Starlink, and all the ways that you can see things around the world. Would you believe it? Because nowadays, with technology, we don't even know what to believe if we see it. Is this tapping into the parallel universes, different dimensions? And what are they bringing back into our world that they are trying to take from others, if it really does exist? I'd love to know what you think. Please comment below. Please share this video if you have enjoyed it at any time. A humongous thank you to Big Hair Tsunami. I'm not sure if you want me to say your names that have been so kind to send me Cash Apps, Venmo, and PayPal. A lot of my videos do not get monetized. I bring to you something that you value and find interesting and entertaining. Remember, never underestimate the power of kindness. Please be kind. I hope someone's kind to you. Humongous hugs, high fives, and good vibes. Trinity, RedOrBluePill. HiHoKermitTheFrogHere. Come with me.